The NFL preseason isn't just a time to get a look at your first team and some backups that could potentially make a big time impact during the season. It is a time for us fantasy football advocates to go check out and see what players are being utilized in certain situations, what players are potentially earning themselves more playing time, and ultimately seeing whether or not a player's ADP is worth it based on their usage in the preseason. Now, not everybody plays, but understanding where guys are lining up and if guys are playing with the first team or other players are playing ahead of them on the roster, it is something that we need to monitor. In the first week of the preseason, there is plenty of this to talk about, and that is why a fantasy football preseason takeaways video is necessary. I'm going to talk about all the players that are rising and falling on my draft board heading into the 2025 fantasy football draft season, which is starting to heat up. So let's get right into this video here on Blitz Sports Media. What's going on, everybody? I'm Blitzlink, and I was just recently at the Fantasy Football Expo, and I lost my voice, so don't grill me for that. But I still have all the preseason stuff. Went through, looked at film of all of these guys, make sure it's lining up with my notes, and it was an exciting week. We got a ton of football. Football is officially in full swing now. I know a lot of people aren't diehards like ourselves and think the preseason is a big deal, but the preseason, it tells us everything we need to know. So we're going to go around the league, and I'm going to kind of summarize each of the stuff that you need to know in fantasy football so you can go out and crush your draft and get some really good steals at their current ADPs. Let's start in Carolina. Carolina has a very interesting situation where they signed Rico Dowdle offseason to a pretty good contract. Now, Chuba Hubbard is fully expected to be their RB1, but it might not be the 75, 80% snap share that we saw from Hubbard last season, which resulted in a strong RB2 campaign. The other day, we saw him play 50% of snaps. He only had 60% of rushing snaps. Meanwhile, Rico Dowdle had 40% of rushing snaps, and he had 57 route participation the other day. This backfield is looking more of like a 60-40 with Dave Canales kind of operated with in Tampa Bay, where you had two running backs, and they had a lot of playing time. So I think that both guys are going to see a more 1A, 1B split instead of this being Hubbard's backfield, the way it looked, for a lot of people with his current value. As the wide receiver position looks, though. Woo. Ted McMillan, man, this guy is going to be an absolute superstar in the league. He had 5 targets in his limited showing with the first team offense. He had 2 catches for 43 yards, and his contested catch down the sideline was incredibly nice. It looks like the chemistry between him and Bryce Young is pretty strong already. I fully expect Ted McMillan to have wide receiver 1 upside this year, and he's going outside the top 24 right now. So Ted McMillan's a guy we need to be targeting and making sure that we are attacking in our drafts right now. Let's talk about a smaller team with smaller impact, the Baltimore Ravens here and the San Francisco 49ers. The Ravens, we saw Keaton Mitchell have a really nice day, and I think this is important because Mitchell is a player that I think Justice Hill is capped. Justice Hill didn't play the other day, and he's operated as the team's primary third down back. Now, if Derrick Henry goes down, Keaton Mitchell will be the primary guy that you want to slot in as his handcuff, not necessarily Justice Hill. Keaton Mitchell had 68 yards and a touchdown on 9 carries. He seems like more of the candidate to take early down work instead of Justice Hill, who was mostly a pass catching back. And then for the 49ers, Ricky Pearsall also rested with the starters, which is a good sign for him that this is basically his receiver room. Obviously, they're not very healthy right now, but Ricky Pearsall is going to have a significant role on this 49ers offense this year. Let's talk about another team, the Chicago Bears. The Bears, Luther Burden is not a player we should be picking up right now. There are 5 receivers currently ahead of him with how the Bears operated. Devin Duvernay and Tyler Scott played before him, and then DJ Moore, Romo Dunze, Zacchaeus were listed among the starters of this offense, and they didn't even play. So you have Luther Burden, who's missed time at camp, and now he's operating, middle tier, that second group, which isn't necessarily great, but he's going drafted right now. So he's not a guy we should be targeting. Kyle Monangai is a guy that we really need to be paying attention to. He was pretty good in his small showing, had 6 attempts for 30 yards with the second team offense. He also had a 60% route participation. So I think he's a guy that could work in with some utilization. We know Swift and Johnson were out of this game with the first team, but I'm interested to see what this backfield looks like when they go out there on the same field. And kind of Monangai did not do anything wrong to lose playing time, so that's definitely a good thing for him. The Bengals, oh man, Chase Brown had a great day. He had 8 touches and 12 snaps with the starters, and he operated over 80% of snaps. Samaje Perine was the only other back to go with the first team, and he played very sparingly, and we've only seen him on third down over the last few seasons. So this is Chase Brown's backfield. He's going to play a majority of time, and that is a great thing for a guy that's going at the end of the second, early third. And he's a player I'm targeting as soon as the second round turn happens. So I love me some Chase Brown this year. Taj Brooks barely operated. He's more of the second team handcuff to Chase Brown on early downs. Another backfield in that division, the Cleveland Browns. Now, Jerome Ford rested, but he's also been dealing with injuries. So who knows if he would have played in this game or not. But Dylan Sampson got the start. He played 73% of snaps for the first two drives and then basically was out of the game. He's been handling a lot of the running back carries and work with the first team, despite, like the Quinshot Judkins situation being up to the air, Jerome Ford injury. I think Sampson's a guy that's going at the end of drafts right now that we need to continue to hammer because he's getting playing time. He's getting out of the game early with the second team. I just think Sampson's a player that is going to absolutely crush it this year. And there's a reason the Browns went with two running backs within the first 4 rounds when they knew they had Jerome Ford coming back. So I think that the writing is on the wall for Ford, and Dylan Sampson's the guy to own for the Cleveland Browns. The Denver Broncos backfield was interesting. There was reports of a little bit of a helmet situation, but I'm not going to go that far and say that was the biggest deal. RJ Harvey dominated the snaps. He had 67% of snaps, and he had 100% of the rushing work early with J.K. Dobbins kind of mixing in more on passing downs. He didn't necessarily get many carries as well. So with this, I don't know how much to look into the helmet situation, but I think it's kind of what I expect from this offense. I think both running backs are going to have probably a 60-40 or 50-50 split, and they're going to be very fresh. A Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara style backfield. I'm interested to see that Dobbins was the primary passing down back. I don't know how much that will hold up because Dobbins has actually struggled in passing for his entire career. So we'll see what happens, but I'm more of this backfield doesn't change for me from what we saw, even though Harvey had a dominant backfield. I'm very high on RJ Harvey, but I think both guys are viable options for sure. Let's talk about the Texans backfield now and then hop into a little bit of pass catchers as well with this team. Nick Chubb, he rested with the Houston starters, and yeah, sure, you could say he's the RB1, but he's also had a lengthy injury history, so why risk it for an older veteran guy? Woody Marks, though, is a player I do want to talk about. I'm not even going to try to say his last name, Ogwumale Bale. It's really rough right now with the voice, but he operated ahead of Woody Marks in this offense, and that's not great because we're considering Woody Marks as a deep sleeper we need to be targeting, but he might not even get the playing time to where he'll matter if Joe Mixon misses time. So Nick Chubb gets a little bit of an elevation there. As far as the receiver room goes for the Texans, Jalen Noel is out of my draft board. This guy rotated very heavily despite a bunch of receivers being out, and he only had a 60% route participation, and he didn't necessarily play with the starters right away. So you have guys like Jaden Higgins who played pretty well within this offense, and he was playing a majority of snaps, got some targets mixed in there. Collins, Kirk, and Schultz are sitting. I think Christian Kirk has a safe spot in the starting lineup for the Texans, and it's going to be Jaden Higgins on the outside, and Jalen Noel looks like he's going to be with the second teamers. As far as the Green Bay Packers go, Matthew Golden is going to continue to rise up draft boards. This guy played 100% of snaps with the first team. That's insane. And he had a 20% target share. He is going to elevate this receiver room because they haven't necessarily utilized anybody with a clear dominant role within this offense. That looks like what Matthew Golden is going to be for the Green Bay Packers this year. And with Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love, and a really strong run game, he's going to be a great pick. He's a low-end wide receiver 3 right now, and he genuinely has wide receiver 1 upside this year. So great news for Matthew Golden. Another rookie for the Colts is Tyler Warren that I was very impressed with. Seemed like he was the main target in this offense, whether it was Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, and they schemed him up pretty well to get him targets and make him feel comfortable. Finished with 3 catches for 40 yards and 71% route participation and a 25% target share. So very, very solid for him. It looks like Tyler Warren's a guy that jumps into my top 8 tight ends now. I think I have him still behind Andrews and Kelsey, but I think he's a guy that has a pretty solid role. We've already heard rumors of packages getting involved with him in this offense. So that is great news for Tyler Warren's long-term outlook in fantasy football. Let's talk about the Jaguars, and we got a lot of news from the Jaguars, obviously, because they got a lot of players mixing in with the new coach. The backfield looks like we were completely wrong, and so were the camp reports. Tank Bigsby only operated with the second teams and didn't even play until the second quarter. Travis Etienne played 100% of snaps with Trevor Lawrence and handled 67% of the attempts and 14% target share and 88% route participation. It's Travis Etienne's backfield. He is so undervalued right now, and he's a guy that we need to be targeting at his current ADP. If Tank Bigsby is not going to have a role with the first team, it is going to be Travis Etienne's backfield. Bashal Tootin didn't necessarily play much. He took up after Tank Bigsby. So it goes in the pecking order: Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, and then Bashal Tootin in this backfield. As far as the wide receiver position goes, De'Ami Brown has locked up the wide receiver 3 spot, while Travis Hunter basically played every key snap with the first team, and he operated as their primary slot receiver with a 29% target share. So Travis Hunter's rising up for me as well, because we all know Liam Cohen's been really strong with slot players in his career when he's been involved with the offense. You have Cooper Kupp for the Rams when he was there, and you also have Chris Godwin, who averaged 19 points per game in the last season when he was the offense coordinator. So very good news for a lot of players in this Jaguars offense, but Tank Bigsby's sliding down boards. Travis Etienne rising up boards just a little bit. Some handcuff notes as well. The Philadelphia Eagles, looks like Will Shipley is going to be their primary handcuff. He played earlier in this game than A.J. Dillon, who relieved him after a strong outing. The Rams, Blake Corum had a really solid game. Looks like Jarquez Hunter is falling back in this rotation as well, so we don't have to really worry about that. The Miami Dolphins, Devon Achane got the start, then arrested. Jalen Wright entered after Devon Achane. Didn't necessarily play super well, but he did get a lot of goal line work and scored a touchdown in there. Alexander Madison is right behind Wright. And then you have Ollie Gordon, who had a really strong finish to the end of the game. He's going to be battling for that RB3 spot, but he's incredibly talented and could potentially take over in that role for this team down the stretch. The Chiefs backfield, another murky backfield here. It looks like Isaiah Pacheco is the clear lead once again. He played the entire first drive and then was out the rest of the game. And the one carry he did have, it looked like the 2023 version of Isaiah Pacheco, where he hits the hole, goes through, takes a few defenders with him, and it's a really solid game. Kareem Hunt operated mostly in the second series, and he was gone after the second drive. And then Elijah Mitchell played, and then Brashard Smith operated as the 5th running back on the depth chart behind even Carson Steele right now. So not great for Brashard Smith truthers. He's a player that I am not really targeting right now. It looks like Elijah Mitchell is going to play more of that McKinnon style role, because he did run a decent amount of routes. He ran droughts on 20% of dropbacks. So we'll see what happens. It looks like this is Isaiah Pacheco's backfield once again, which is good news for him at his current ADP. Some other notes here: the Pittsburgh Steelers, mess of a backfield, looks like it's going to be interesting. Listen, Arthur Smith just finds every way possible to annoy us in fantasy football, and that's how it's going. Jalen Warren is operating with the starters. He didn't even touch the field. Kenneth Gainwell was the first running back in and then rested, and then it was Caleb Johnson time as the third guy in. He finished with 8 carries for 20 yards, 69% snap share when he was in. Doesn't look great for Caleb Johnson right now. Jalen Warren looks like he's going to be the starter this season, but I'm interested to see, does that mean it's early down work too for Jalen Warren, or does it mean it's third down work and that's where this offense is going to run? I know that Arthur Smith wants to run the ball a lot. Caleb Johnson is the best pure runner this team has. Are the opportunities going to be there, or is it going to be Jalen Warren who gets a first crack at it? So Caleb Johnson's value takes a little bit of a hit. Jalen Warren's is going to see a little bit of an increase with that news as well. The Tennessee Titans lost Tajay Spears to a high ankle sprain. Not great for a running back. Tony Pollard operated as a bell cow back once again. His value is just so secure. This guy is an low end RB2 right now and has high end RB2 upside. He's an absolute target right now in the 6th round of drafts, and we need to be seeing him. Chig, on the other hand, at the tight end position, played 100% route participation for him in every snap of the starters. He looks like a sneaky option when we know Cam Ward has had a pretty solid target share, 2 tight ends in the past, and he's a late round flyer that I think we need to take a look at. Torrey Horton did a very good job of auditioning for his case for the Seattle Seahawks, where he had 95% route participation the first 4 drives and had a 41% target share during that period. He seems like he's such a riser in this wide receiver room that rested JSN, Cooper Kupp, and MVS. He's a guy that actually could be a legit playmaker for the Seahawks offense with more playing time during the season. Really bad news is the Jets backfield. Now, I'm not a guy that's avoided Breece Hall in drafts. I'm a guy that's targeted him at times if he falls in my lap, but I don't think the Jets like him very much. It's a 3-way backfield right now between him, Braylon Allen, and Isaiah Davis. Hall had a 50% snap share, 75% attempt share, and a low 33% route participation. Braylon Allen had 20% of snaps, and then Isaiah Davis kind of matched that receiving production from Breece Hall. So it's a very murky situation. Let's just say that. There's reports that they potentially want to trade Breece Hall. I don't know what's going on in this Jets backfield, and for that reason, I'm out on all of these guys for now. I think Braylon Allen is a player at the end of drafts we should be taking a look at. But Breece Hall is a guy I just don't want any part of. This is going to be a three-headed committee in fantasy football. And then let's end with the final team, the New England Patriots, where TreVeyon Henderson showcased his elite playmaking ability. The 100-yard kick return set the tone for what TreVeyon Henderson can be. He had 1 carry for 18 yards and then 3 catches for 12 yards. He is going to be the explosive playmaker of this Patriots offense, and they're going to find a way to get the ball in his hands. Ramondre Stevenson played a lot. He's going to be having a really solid role in this offense. He had 7 carries for 36 yards and had 83% of rushing attempts. Stevenson is a guy going at the end of drafts, and he's going to have a big role, so I think he's going to jump up my board a little bit. But TreVeyon Henderson is the most explosive playmaker in New England and potentially a top 10 guy in the NFL in terms of explosiveness, and he legit has high-end RB1 upside if he gets more playing time throughout his year because his pass catching value is already secure. If he gets more early down work, the sky's the limit for TreVeyon Henderson. All in all, though, guys, a ton of preseason news that we had to go over. Let me know down in the comment section below which news are you taking the most serious and who is rising or falling up your draft boards. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for more Blitz fantasy football content, and I'll catch you guys next time.